Yo, it's your boy Smoke about the Madden video. Today's video, we're going to be doing every NFL team's most underrated player. And the way we're going to be starting this is alphabetical order for every single NFL team, starting with the city name. So the city name, alphabetical order, is the way we'll go through this. If you guys enjoy the NFL and Madden 25 content, I highly recommend you subscribe with post notifications on so you get notified anytime we post. Starting with the Arizona Cardinals, we're going to do Zaven Collins. Zaven Collins is a solid linebacker for the Cardinals. He finished the 2024 season with 57 tackles, 6 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 7 tackles for loss, and he has the 5th best PFF run defense grade, which a lot of people don't even know about. Now we got the Atlanta Falcons, and we got Drew Dahlman, the center. He only allowed 2 sacks in this past season, only 2 penalties, and in PFF grade, he's the 4th best rated center. Now we got the Baltimore Ravens. And this guy, you guys definitely know him. He's not really underrated, but people were starting to count him out, so that's why I'm going to go ahead and say he's underrated. You know, a team like the Ravens, it's hard to find an actual underrated player because everybody knows all the good people on the Ravens, actually. But I'm going to go Mark Andrews. And I know that sounds pretty crazy calling him underrated, but people were starting to call him washed before the season even started. Then he had a rough 2 weeks to start the season. Everyone said he was bad. Well, he finished the season with 55 receptions, 673 yards, 11 receiving touchdowns. He led tight ends in touchdowns, and he only had 2 drops on the year. Now with the Buffalo Bills, I'm going to go with the safety, Taylor Rapp. Taylor Rapp, if you watch his game, he actually saves a lot of big runs from breaking out in that Buffalo Bills defense. He had 63 solo tackles, 2 interceptions, 6 passes defended. Next on the list, the Carolina Panthers. And I was thinking about going Chuba Hubbard, but a lot of people are starting to recognize how good he's actually doing after the year he had. So I'm going to go with another safety. I'm going to go with Xavier Woods. Xavier Woods, I feel like he's been good for a little bit now. And on the year, I mean, he does have 88 solo tackles, 3 interceptions. Interesting fact about Xavier Woods, he actually has the most snaps played for a safety this season. And he has 6 passes defended. Now we got the Chicago Bears. Bears is a little bit interesting because I feel like they were kind of hard to find someone that's actually really underrated. I'm going to go DeAndre Swift just because people are starting to count him out. People don't really actually know how valuable DeAndre Swift is. I feel like he could easily be utilized more and put in that game plan more. But on the year, DeAndre Swift had 959 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, averaged 3.8 yards per carry, 386 receiving yards with 42 receptions. He's pretty underrated in the receiving game. The Bengals, this guy is actually really underrated. I'm shocked more people do not talk about him. But the Cincinnati Bengals, Cam Taylor-Britt, 61 solo tackles, 3 interceptions, 54 receptions allowed, and 16 passes defended. 16 passes defended, that is pretty good. The Cleveland Browns, we are going to go with Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford got a large amount of volume with Nick Chubb being injured all this year, pretty much. I mean, he did play like 1 or 2 games, I believe, but still. Jerome Ford, 104 carries, 565 yards. He averaged 5.4 yards per carry. That is insane. That is the 4th best in the NFL. With the Dallas Cowboys, I wanted to go Marshawn Kneeland, but his numbers aren't quite there yet. But he's still very young, so only time will tell. But I'm going to go with someone else on their defense, DeMario Overshown. And it sucks this guy's season got cut short. Shortly after Thanksgiving, he had a season-ending injury. But DeMario Overshown on the year, 5 sacks, 61 solo tackles. He has the 11th best rated pass rush in all of edge, left outside linebackers / middle linebacker. He plays a little bit of both. But yeah. The Denver Broncos, I'm going to go with Jonathan Cooper. The fact that no one is talking about Jonathan Cooper actually blows my mind, considering this man had 39 solo tackles on the year, but that's not even where it gets good. This guy had 10.5 sacks in the regular season, over double-digit sacks, and I haven't heard a single soul talk about him. Not an analyst, not NFL Twitter, not NFL Instagram, nothing. Just this guy's getting absolutely no recognition whatsoever, and he's got 10.5 sacks, so very underrated pass rusher for the Broncos right there. Detroit Lions, I have Aleem McNeil. Now, this guy could have put up slightly better numbers, but it's hard to find a guy for the Detroit Lions because, you know, since they're now popular, a lot of people know about their stars or even their slightly underrated players. They start to get liked more and stuff like that. That's just kind of what happens to popular teams. But Ali McNeil, 18 solo tackles, 4 sacks, 1 forced fumble. With the Green Bay Packers, we got Zach Tom. I love Zach Tom. He's one of my favorite offensive tackles in the league. He only allowed 3 sacks on the year. He had the 3rd best run blocking grade, and he is the 4th best overall in offensive tackles. Zach Tom is not only underrated, he is one of the best offensive tackles in the National Football League. Hands down, it's not even debatable. The Houston Texans, now this guy is kind of like the Mark Andrews pick. You guys definitely know about him, and yes, you know he's good, but he's just not talked about enough in general. This guy is still underrated. I'm going to go with Will Anderson Jr. Now, I know he just had an amazing rookie season. A lot of people do know about that, but he has 51 quarterback pressures on the year. He has 12 sacks and 19 solo tackles. First of all, 51 quarterback pressures alone, that is pretty good. But the 12 sacks, that is even better. This guy knows how to get to the quarterback. He knows how to get to the running back. This guy knows how to get into that backfield no matter what. The Indianapolis Colts, I got Julian Blackmon. This guy is really underrated. He is one of the better safeties in the league. He had 70 solo tackles, 3 interceptions, only 15 receptions allowed, and 4 passes defended. Julian Blackmon, really one of the solid pieces on the Indianapolis Colts defense. Jacksonville Jaguars, I got Devin Lloyd. Now, this guy is starting to become slightly less underrated. More people have been talking about him recently, but he is still underrated, so I'm going to pick him. 81 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 25 assist tackles. He's a monster at the pass rush as well. Devin Lloyd can really just do it all. The Kansas City Chiefs, I'm going to do George Karlaftis. This guy is one of the underrated pieces of the Kansas City Chiefs defense. He gets a little bit overshadowed by Chris Jones. I mean, rightfully so. Chris Jones is a monster among men, but George Karlaftis, he had 22 solo tackles, 8 sacks, 21 QB hits. He led the league in QB hits with 21, and he had 61 QB pressures. The Las Vegas Raiders, I'm going to go with Jacoby Myers. Now, this one's similar. A lot of you guys know Jacoby Myers is good, but he just put up a year that I don't even think you guys would know is good. Like, as good as you would think for Jacoby Myers. So anyway, he had a career year, obviously. 126 targets, 87 receptions, and he had the 12th most in the NFL. He had the 12th most receptions. Now, that's pretty crazy to think about because, I mean, yeah, Jacoby Myers is a good receiver, but I don't think many people would think about him top 12 in receiving stats. He did only have 4 receiving receptions, so maybe that's why people aren't talking about him as much, but he had 0 drops on the year as well. After the Las Vegas Raiders comes the Los Angeles Chargers, and I'm going to go with Khalil Mack. This guy is still elite. A lot of people, it's kind of similar to the Mark Andrews pick, not to kind of repeat myself, but we have a tendency in sports just to write off people just because their age starts to look a little older. And, he's not having a career year, but he's still having a very productive season. 20 solo tackles, 6 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Los Angeles Rams are now up, and honestly, you can do anyone on their young defensive line. But we are going to go with Kevin Dotson. He is a really good guard for them. He only had 2 penalties, only 3 sacks allowed. He's the 8th best rated guard according to the PFF grades. Now the Miami Dolphins, I'm going to go with Juanu Smith. A lot of people are not talking about how great of a year he actually just had. 88 receptions, 884 yards, and 8 touchdowns. That is very impressive, especially for a tight end. Normally, offenses don't target tight ends quite as much. The Minnesota Vikings, I'm going to go with Brian O'Neill. A lot of people do know he's good, but he gets a little bit overshadowed by Christian Darrisaw. He did have 5 penalties, which is a little bit, that's not a whole lot, but I don't think it's bad. But he only allowed 2 sacks, and he was the 12th best PFF grade for all offensive tackles. New England Patriots, Christian Gonzalez, he had 50 solo tackles, 2 interceptions, 11 passes defended. Christian Gonzalez is definitely a stud in the making. Actually, he's already a stud. There is no making left to be done. Foster Monroe for the New Orleans Saints is who I got. Now, the Saints this is kind of a little bit of a weak pick, but this is mainly just because no one talks about Foster Moreau. He does not get appreciated at all. 32 receptions, 413 yards, 5 receiving touchdowns. I could have went with Raheed Shaheed, but I feel like people already kind of know about him after those first 5 weeks from the New Orleans Saints. Raheed Shaheed did very well. Now for the New York Giants, we got Tyrone Tracy. This is another kind of pick where you guys know about Tyrone Tracy, but not really anyone's talking about him. 192 carries, 839 yards. He averaged 4.4 yards per carry, which is amazing. 5 rushing touchdowns, so we could have had a little bit more rushing touchdowns. Now for the New York Jets, I'm going to go with Tyler Conklin. He did very good. I honestly was debating about going for Aaron Rodgers just because he's getting hated on a lot. And yeah, his year wasn't good, but wasn't really as bad as a lot of people are acting like. But I do feel like Father Time is starting to catch Rodgers. But anyway, Tyler Conklin on the year, 51 receptions, 449 receiving yards, and 4 receiving touchdowns. Philadelphia Eagles, I'm going to go with Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat is doing really good. He had 8 sacks on the year, 27 solo tackles, and 54 QB pressures. Not a lot of people talk about Josh Sweat, even though he is on a really good team. So I was also thinking about doing Quinyon Mitchell there, a lot of underrated talent on the Philadelphia Eagles defense. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm going to go with Alex Highsmith. A lot of people know about Alex Highsmith, but he just has not been talked about a lot this year, and he's having a pretty good year. 48 pressures, 6 sacks, and 32 solo tackles for Alex Highsmith. Now we got the San Francisco 49ers, and I'm going to go with Jawan Jennings. This man was only 25 yards away from having 1,000-yard receiving. 1,000 yards receiving on the year. Only 25 yards away, so he had 975 receiving yards, and no one is talking about this guy. I think that's absolutely mind-boggling to me. Maybe it's because the 49ers had a disappointing season in general, but yeah, I don't know how people are not talking about that. He had 6 receiving touchdowns, 77 receptions. Seattle Seahawks, I'm going to go with Zach Charbonnet. He really filled in the role of the Seattle Seahawks losing Kenneth Walker well, and that is a hard player to replace. Zach Charbonnet on the year with 569 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns. He averaged 4.2 yards per carry. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm going to go with this guy mainly because I do feel he is underrated. So hear me out. This is Graham Barton, okay? He was the first-round pick. He is a center for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I am going to go with him because I can tell by watching him that he is good. Now, this is why I am defending myself so much. He did have 13 penalties on the year, which is brutal. But he only allowed 1 sack. He only allowed 2 QB hits. I feel like Graham Barton will be a stud. Just give him a little bit more time. And, you've seen this time and time from offensive linemen. It takes them a while to get used to NFL speed and just getting used to the NFL in general. So rookies in general, sometimes it takes time, especially for offensive linemen. Tennessee Titans, I am going to go with Jake Gibbons. He is a very underrated linebacker. I mean, if I'm not trying to sound rude, but Titans don't have very much talent on their roster. But Jake Gibbons, he did have the 12th best PFF grade for linebackers, and he had 24 solo tackles. Washington Commanders, I'm going to go with Jeremy Chin. He is very great in the run game, Jeremy Chin. I remember when he was a Carolina Panther, he was still good. I thought he was good as a Panther as well. He had 81 solo tackles on the year, 1 interception, and he only had 36 receptions allowed. So that is every single underrated player from every NFL team. In my opinion, this is all opinion-based. I do feel like a lot of these people are underrated, though. I don't feel like many people talk about them. But let me go ahead and comment down below what you guys feel is wrong, what is right, who I left out, who I didn't hype up enough, or stuff like that. It'd be very appreciated. So let me know how you guys feel about the selections I made. Make sure to comment down below if you have any YouTube recommendations you guys would like to see us do. We cover NFL analysis and Madden 25. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.